Hello, welcome to the LVLing Up Vodast, which is our video podcast series where I'll be interviewing business owners who've done something transformational, out of the box for themselves or for their business, in the hope that it might spark a little bit of innovation for you and your business as well. So in today's episode, I'm chatting with the wonderful Tegan Purdon, who's from Marketing Unlocked, which is a digital marketing agency based down in Melbourne. Welcome, Tegan, and thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. As you mentioned, obviously Tegan, and I'm from Marketing Unlocked, which is a company I started last year, or it is technically last year now, so a few months ago. So still a little bit of a newbie, but hoping I can help out some of these viewers.
Beautiful. Thank you. We're very, very grateful to have you here. And I think your story is obviously one of transformation, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But I think it's one that a lot of business owners can resonate with, because essentially you were thrown in the deep end of your career, whether you were ready for it or not. You were going into the deep end, and particularly through this COVID period, I think there's a lot of small business owners, particularly out there, who've found themselves potentially in the same situation that you did last year, and you managed to transform and emerge from the, like a phoenix in the ashes with your career and with your business. So I think it's a really inspiring story. And there might even be people watching who are, in their day job, in their corporate job right now, playing with the idea of, do they want to start their own business? And hopefully this maybe inspires them to do so. So with that little teaser, I think we should start. And you mentioned your business earlier, but can you just tell us a little bit more about Marketing Unlocked? When did it start? What do you guys do? And just your journey so far.
Yeah, of course. So Marketing Unlocked is a digital marketing agency that specializes in brand and campaign management. We do marketing at all different levels across the entire campaign or your entire brand. So we do social media management, we support your sales funnels, we look at website maintenance, copywriting, pretty much everything. And we do sort of everything from the strategic review component to the implementation. So the strategic stuff is often forgotten and people just jump straight into implementing. And I'm sort of the one that goes, oh, let's have a look at who your target audience is, and let's have a look at how your channels are going. And sometimes people find that they're actually not that bad. It's just their reach isn't as great as it could be. And their content's amazing. What they're doing is amazing. And that's what I'm there to do. I'm there to support them. And I started the business up in that mindset. I'm very passionate and I get very emotionally involved in everything that I do. And that's one reason why I wanted to bring that element into Marketing Unlocked and have it as a marketing family from afar. Basically, someone that you can rely on to give you frank information, but also tell you how can we strategically move forward and how can we help you and help your business to get clients, get customers, whatever it is, get reach, whatever your goal is, to help out on that element. As you mentioned as well, a bit of a unique story for me is that I've been in the corporate world for over 7 years and working across not-for-profits, large organizations, government, everything like that, working across all the different sectors and industries. And more recently, I was thrown into the deep end when I was made redundant from my job at 7 months pregnant during the very early stages of the transition between stage 4 and stage 3 down in Victoria. So there was no jobs available. The jobs that were available, I couldn't physically do, being 7, almost 8 months pregnant, and had to kind of reevaluate. I was the breadwinner of my family, and I had a 2-year-old, obviously one on the way, and all my family live interstate as well. So I had to just think, and my partner and I sat down and we just sort of said, let's give it a go. Started up my company within a week, got my first client within that same week, and have sort of been rolling ever since. It is something that I was kind of toying with already, but that was like 5 years down the track. But I just decided, let's give it a go, and I can't do much else. I can try get temp work, but even temp work wasn't available. And I was really lucky in that the people I've worked with, the clients I've had so far, have been absolutely amazing. And I've been able to utilize a lot of my skills that I really enjoy doing. And I'm starting to spark that passion again in different elements of marketing that I might not have touched for, 12 months or so.
Amazing. I think I might just pause and ask you a couple of questions, because you said so many brilliant things just then, and I think we need to delve a bit deeper, because it can sound a lot like, from this, awful situation that you found yourself in. Of course, being 7.5 months pregnant and being made redundant was probably not in your plan. So from this awful situation, a lot of people would panic. It's, change is big, particularly when it's forced upon you and you don't initiate it yourself. And I think the fact that you could spin up a business within a week, let's just talk about that, because that doesn't happen by luck. There's, I'm going to say the word strategy that goes into that. And Level Up, of course, we're all about strategy, and it's great to hear that Marketing Unlocked are as well, and probably you personally, and I can resonate with that. Strategy people meet other strategy people, but there's no real luck in business. I mean, sometimes there is, but having a plan and sitting down and working out what's going to work and what are the risks, and can we make this happen? What are the scenarios? That's really important. So I want to quickly talk about, how did you do that very rapid fire strategic planning that made Marketing Unlock, come to be? And then I want to talk about, how do you do that with marketing as well with your company? Because from a Level Up perspective, we have clients come to us all the time, and they're not just small business owners, they're sometimes medium-sized businesses and large businesses as well, who say to us, we need to do some marketing, we need to do a print ad or a Facebook ad and go. And we go, where's your strategy? Where's your marketing plan? Who are your target market? What's your value proposition? And you get this quizzical look back where they say, what do you mean? There's a strategy that we need to do. So I want to talk about that as well, because it's often, I think there's a misconception of what marketing is, that it's just execution, but there's a hell of a lot of thinking that goes before that. So first and foremost, how did you do a strategy for Marketing Unlocked to begin with your husband, as you said?
Yes, so basically we looked into what were our needs. What did we want out of this? Obviously, a big driver for us was income, and that was primarily what we were looking at, rather than actually developing a business that's going to change the world, or at least change Australia. So I guess it's having realistic expectations. So understanding, what do I want out of this? What is my goal? What is my achievement? And then how does that align to my business? And that, being clear on that. And for me, I didn't have time to really write it down. So a lot of people do business plans and they get so overwhelmed by the business plans, because they're like, there's so many elements to it. Everyone says you have to have one. You don't have to have one in the first instance, especially when you've got to do a rapid business like I did. You do have to be very clear in your head about what you want and what is a realistic expectation. And I think that's probably the biggest element that people forget about. They go, I just want to make money. It's like, well, that's great, but what else is it? Like, what is the actual, smart goals that you want to associate with that? Do you want to have primarily retainer clients? Do you want to have, one-off ones? Do you want to do small jobs like $50, $100 here and there? Is that the way you want to work? And sometimes it's just about jumping in and seeing what the market's like. It's a very demanding market to be doing virtual and consulting, especially because people and companies have realized, oh, you don't actually need someone to be in the same little 5-meter radius as you to be able to get a really good outcome. And so I think that's I think that's a really good thing to remember, is that sometimes you don't know, and it's always good to start your company off a little bit bigger. Obviously, if you're producing products, it's a bit different. You can't start off with having a 30 item range, but having, more specifically with me, with clients and understanding who my target market is, having a little bit more of that versatility. And because I've got such a versatile background in marketing, I was able to do that. And then it's about niching down from there, figuring out what is your passion, what do you actually want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do a 2-hour webinar because it's a time difference and you are still so awake even without coffee? What is that passion that drives you? What do you want to go and train on? What do you want to do 15 hours of CPD, a week on, and still be able to work with your clients and run your own marketing and branding and all that sort of stuff as well. So figuring that out, I think, is really important, but that sometimes does take time.
I love that. I love that as a litmus test. If you can get up at 4 a.m. without coffee and still be full of energy, you're onto a winner. I love that. We should put that on the wall somewhere. I also love, you're exactly right. And what you just mentioned there is something that I speak to with clients a lot as well. You got to start with your why. And it's not a bad thing if your why of being in business is to make money. I mean, a lot of people are. If your why is to be passionate about your work and wanting to throw yourself into it wholeheartedly, that's okay. And then from there, you do the what and the how. And you can start a business with just the why. It sounds like you did. I definitely did. And then once you are out there testing the market, as you say, niche down. You don't have to have all the answers from day one. And you're right, people throw a lot of time and effort into a business plan. And this is going to sound very funny coming from a strategic planner, but that initial business plan where they think, oh, I've got to have this and this is the answer and this is my roadmap. You're probably going to try and want to do it again, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months down the track anyway, as you learn more of what's out there. So just, have your why, be very clear on it. What are you here to achieve? And then jump in, which sounds like you did with Marketing Unlocked and a client within a week, Tegan. That's amazing.
I know. I think that my expectations were a little bit lower, and I think that that does happen, especially as being a woman. Your expectations are so ridiculously high that I thought that having a client within a week was like ridiculous. I should have had 2 or 3. And then when I spoke to people, they're like, oh, it took me 3 months to get my first client. I'm like, oh, okay, so I've done actually really well. And sometimes benchmarking is really hard when you're first starting out, especially when you don't have time to do the background knowledge and research. So it's one of those things where you just have to put your own benchmarks in and then reevaluate them and reevaluate your success later. And definitely with the business plan, I was in that situation where I didn't want to grow. I wanted to grow my business to get an income for the moment, but I didn't want to grow it any further than that, knowing that I was going to go on maternity leave. So I was in this weird position where they're like, all the resources online are about growing your business. And I didn't want to grow it. I just wanted to get a few clients, be a little bit happy with what I was doing, and then massively reevaluate when I was on maternity leave, and then fully reevaluate when I'm looking to join the workforce back up again. And that's definitely where I'm probably going to take that time to focus on that business plan, understanding those key elements, and then again, constantly reevaluating it. Is this actually working? Is this the way I want to go? Is this the way the market is going? There's all different aspects that can influence a business plan, and having it set in place, a 5-year plan. Everyone knows a 5-year plan just never worked out, but it's a goal. It's like a budget. It's a benchmark, and you might not get there. You might go over, you might go under. In my circumstances, I usually go under, but it's something that you can strive towards, and you can kind of reevaluate and go, wait, if my budget's $5,000 and I'm spending $4,000 on one item, I need to buy 15 items. Maybe I need to relook at this. So it's a way to continually pivot your mindset as you continue through the business environment.
Absolutely. And I think, again, I do want to talk about actually how you got that first client within a week. But I do love, you've just reiterated why it's really important to be clear on your why, and your why is different from another business owner's why. So we don't hear very often business owners that go, I've launched a business and I want it to stay small. That doesn't happen very often. But your circumstances, were unique. And of course, I'm sure that when you come back from having bub, you'll be thinking, okay, now where do we go? The gears have changed. I'm back into Marketing Unlocked, and where do we go from here? And it's different from where you are today. So your why might change and your strategy might change, as you say. But back onto your first client within 1 week. Again, I think as women, or lots of people, but particularly women, go, oh, I got lucky. I didn't do anything to deserve that. That just fell in my lap. But I fathom a guess, Tegan, that was not the case with you. So how did you get that first client within a week?
No, it was definitely a lot of hard work, a lot of stress. I will say that, being new to everything, and I'm more of an introvert, so I'm not someone who is amazing at networking. I don't rock up to someone I've never met before and I'm like, hey, let's spark this amazing conversation. I'm not like that. So as an introvert, it's even that extra level of stress that you have on there. And that's something that I've identified, and something that I would recommend to anyone having a business is identify your personality and your personality traits. How can you utilize those for your business? But then if you're in scenarios where it's more of a stress, when it comes to some of your personality traits, how can you flip that to make it a positive? And how can you flip it to actually make it work for your business? So I kind of took on this approach of, I'm just going to talk to everybody that I have ever worked with, and I'm just going to reach out and be like, hey, I'm looking for clients. If you know anyone, I'm looking for short-term work. If you know anyone. And it was very confronting, very daunting, but I had to do it. And I had to be pushed outside of my normal comfort zone. And that's how I kind of got that lead of that client. Obviously, getting the client was all me, I will say that. But getting the lead on the client was done through a network. And it wasn't even through someone I knew. It was through someone my partner had worked with 4 years ago that has now moved across the other side of the country, that he hasn't spoken to in a year or more. And it was just one of those things where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be shy. If I don't know this person and they laugh at me, then that's what happens. And it worked out really well. She showed me someone that was a lead potentially, and then I just had a chat with them and showed my personality. I think that was the big thing, and that's one thing that is one of my strengths, is that I do have the passion. I am always a positive person, and ensuring that I kept that positive mindset throughout a very stressful situation was pretty detrimental to the success of being able to land a client within that first week.
Exactly. And positivity breeds positivity, I find.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to something you said about discomfort. And I think there's a lot of people out there, whether you're introverted or extroverted, who think, oh, reaching out and sales and asking for work and asking for leads, that's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. Some people are very comfortable in it, but most of us, you know, we'd rather work came through the door rather than us pushing the other way. So that, I mean, you were also thrust into this, oh, well, I need to do this. So not only was it uncomfortable, but you had to do it. How did you overcome that?
So I guess for me, I do have a bit of an advantage being a marketer. So I understand sales as well. And I have worked in sales positions before, including managing a whole sales team that became quite successful with strategies that I'd implemented. And the biggest thing for me is that you sell without selling. So it's a way of being able to prove your value, prove your worth, without saying, look at how amazing I am. Look at all these things I've achieved. Yes, those are really important, but those don't make a success. That doesn't make a successful relationship. Successful relationship is where you can work with someone. It's where you can show that you can go, yep, I can do this and this, but no, I can't do that. And it's okay to say, no, you can't do that. And people often forget that. They're so desperate to get a client. They're so desperate to earn an income and start to work that they just go, yep, I can do it. That's fine. I'll take that client on. And then it starts to negatively impact their business, and it starts to negatively impact themselves. So I found that by being able to promote what I was doing really well, and even just writing down some notes before you go into a client meeting, having a little sales pitch for when you are reaching out to clients, and tweaking that constantly with what is going on and how they're responding, then in order to, like, once you resolve that and once you figure that sort of side of it out, you can then start to really understand who you are as a business owner, who you are as a client as well, in that two-way relationship, and really understanding how your value will add to it. And the value is often knowing your boundaries, knowing that you can't give them everything, and that niching down, a lot of companies forget that niching down is actually a really good thing, and that's often what makes the difference between success and not success, or unsuccessful, should I say. But that's often the difference. And people say, I'm not getting customers, I'm not getting this. Niche down. They niche down, they're all of a sudden successful. So I think boundaries is definitely a massive thing. Not selling yourself, but still selling yourself. And are just the sort of the main things that I try to focus on, and you'll eventually learn to do it.
I really like that. And I think that's a big lesson. So if you're watching the podcast today and you're thinking, oh, Tegan rather has said some really interesting things. Here's one that I would love you to park in your brain, and that is what Tegan said about selling without selling. So there's a stigma out there that sales are yucky, sort of, door-to-door salesman, saleswoman sort of mentality, where it's all about the commission, it's all about the sale, and you're not actually about who you're selling to. I really love what you said, Tegan. There's 3 things I took away from that. That is to be authentic, be you. There's no one else like you, and if you see value in yourself, then who you're selling to will see the value as well. So be authentic, be transparent. What you said about boundaries. So, be clear what you can, they can expect from you, and what you can deliver. There's no point in lying or skirting around the truth, because you'll just fail. No one wants to fail, and the client fails as well. And then the last thing is always be delivering value. And I've personally believed this as well. So every interaction you have with even if they're not a client already, a potential client, always deliver value to them, whether it's, a follow-up email with a link to some information that they might find helpful, or an invitation to a webinar, or something interesting that will add value to them. Always be delivering value. And that's not a sales pitch, that's actually just helpful to people. So you can be authentic and transparent and value adding without being that, icky image of a salesperson that we imagine. Those days are over.
And I guess the one other thing to add on there is knowing your own value as well. Often you see people who start their own business that are like, I don't know what price point to put there. I don't know, how much I should be charging per hour. And yes, you can get guided on that, but, understand your own value, understand, that people aren't paying for that 1 hour of work. They're paying for the 7 to 10 years of training that you have done that has led up to them being able to take you on and them to work for you, whether it be, or even just products. It's your research, it's your, looking into the different types of products that are needed, the quality of the products. It's all that sort of stuff that goes into what that value is. And people often forget about how to value themselves. And that is something that I think everyone needs to reevaluate constantly as well.
Absolutely. And it's also something that, a little bit like the business plan and your target market, you don't need to have that answer from day one. You can start with a price point in the market, and as you learn more about the market and about your target customer, you might go, oh, I'm off the mark, or, oh, I've actually got more value to give in this space. Level Up and myself, I've certainly learnt that fairly quickly, particularly in the last 12 months, actually, where you sort of look at your peers and go, oh, I'm at this level in the market, and all right, it's time to change the prices. So again, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. To start with your business. I think that's another theme that we're getting out of today's conversation. Just start, and there's no rule that says you can't change as your business grows and evolves. So to the other, I guess, part I wanted to chat about today, which is about marketing strategy. And as I mentioned before, a lot of people go, we need marketing, and that's the solution. And we've gone to solution mode straight away. So as a marketer, what I think would be really helpful for this podcast episode is maybe perhaps walk us through what is the end-to-end process. And I completely appreciate you don't do the end-to-end process every time, but say you've met a new client who says, we want to generate more leads, more sales with the right customers. What is it that you would do go to woe with that customer?
Yeah, so it's very much how we've talked about with running a business. You firstly question the why. And I've worked with a lot of different projects, small, large, a lot of different company sizes, and often they forget the why. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of it? And having those objectives and having the primary audience and those sorts of things figured out is really crucial. And basically there's roughly 10 sort of components to a strategy as such, or to marketing as such. The first one, which is often overlooked, is being customer orientated. So understanding that you're not working for yourself, you're not doing this for you, you're doing it for somebody else. And talking to them that what's in it for me, understanding why they would like to engage with you, why they would like to buy your products, what value they get from you. And having that mindset shift can be pretty detrimental to a business. If they're not customer focused, they're never going to be successful. They might have a quick little peak of money come in and purchases, but then they're going to dwindle off. And those are the people that often come going, it was working so well. I got 15,000 followers within 2 weeks, and now no one's buying my product. I've gotten three purchases from there. And understanding the customer and having them in that mindset, and always every single section, every single part of your marketing strategy and components going, how does that impact the customer? Looking back and go, does the customer actually really want this? And that's when you kind of drill into the next step, which is market research. How do you know what they want? How do you understand them? And that doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be 100, 150 grand, focus groups, those sorts of things. You can do so much on social media. When people are asking those little polls, that's engagement. That's them doing research. You don't even realize they're doing research on you. And that's what I love about social media these days, is that people do have access to research a lot cheaper, a lot easier, and a lot quicker. Obviously, it's 24 hours, but everyone wants to tell their opinion. Everyone wants a voice, and social media gives them that. And research is a very crucial component of any business.
Yeah,
a lot of people forget it.
I'll back you up on the research piece, because the biggest mistake I think business owners can make is assuming they know what the customer wants. Because sometimes the customer doesn't even know what they want, to be honest. They don't know what they don't know, which is why some of the biggest innovations in the world are brand new products that have broke ground that no one knew they wanted. The iPod, for example. Yeah. But something that I find, and I think you probably find this as well at Marketing Unlocked, is that every single time the team at Level Up do a strategic business plan or a marketing plan, and we do market research first, followed by customer research, what we thought we were going to do and what we end up doing are completely different based on that research. Because even, as you say, these low-cost research options reveal things that you weren't expecting. So you have to go in with an open mind, be looking for things that people may or may not be saying. As I said, because sometimes customers don't know what they want. Watch them in their natural habitat is also helpful. But if you omit research, you're going to miss that gold that happens there. So I love that you have that as part of your process, because for me, that's one of the most important things you can do with any sort of planning.
Definitely. And market research, like you said, it's that mindset, and you have to go into it thinking, I don't know what my end product's going to be. I know the boundaries in what my company can produce. That's obviously very crucial, because you're not going to I mean, as a marketer, marketing consultant, I'm not going to go and say, hey, do you guys want this dairy product? I can start producing cheese in my company. Like, I'm not going to do that. So you have to know what your limitations are and what your company can actually produce and what is going to be true to your business. But people underestimate market research, and they also think it's really easy to do. It's really quite difficult. Like you said, you have to figure out what people are saying between the words, really, and between the answers. And you have to have someone who is able to look at the different questions and be able to piece them together in order to actually complete a story without them realizing you're completing the story. Mm-hmm. And it's taken years to understand how to do that. And I'm not an expert at it, but I really enjoy doing research and I love looking at data. Any marketer would love looking at data. But definitely it's a very, very crucial component. And people just jump that because they think, I've made this product for me. I know what I want. Let's jump in. I'm gonna go and figure it all out. And I'm the target market, so I know how to market to myself. You're not the target market. I'm sorry, but you're not. You might have created this product based on a need or a want that you had that was missing, and that's a really good place to be in. But if you start to believe that that's going to then turn into success, you know, it's not going to. Everyone's needs are very different, and you might find that, yes, it fills your needs, but the person who is identical to you in, you know, a different state, it doesn't fully fulfill their needs, and they're not going to purchase your product. So yeah, definitely that mindset. And then after that research component, you have to look at segmenting. You can't just go in and be like, oh, awesome, I've got this whole like, you know, target market of like, yeah, of Australia. And yes, that is true. You think about it and you go, if I sell petrol, I can sell to pretty much everyone in Australia. And you're like, okay, that's fair enough, but can you market to everyone in Australia? And no, that's where segmentation comes in. Looking at how you can segment them. And I'm not talking about looking at, you know, their gender or their location. You need to look at things a little bit more specifically these days, especially because we're in a digital world. And ensuring that you're looking at the different elements and how their buying behavior happens and how they work online, how they interact and engage online. Those are the things that you should be segmenting by, not by gender and age and those things, which are completely irrelevant these days.
Yes.
You know, and that's the importance of segmentation. And then that way you can kind of go, okay, I've got my segments. Who do I want to target from there? And then looking at each of those segments and going, this is how I'm going to target to this segment. I'm going to not worry about the other 15 segments or the other 4 segments. I want to just focus on one segment. And then if I'm successful in that one, I'll branch out to other ones. Or I might go for every single one. And that's okay, as long as you don't treat them the same, yeah. Which people often do. You see it all the time, especially on social media. It kills me where they put out the same ad across LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and they don't change their creative. They don't change anything about the ads. They think that having that one message, which is pretty detrimental to them, is having that one message is going to lead to a sale. No, it's not going to lead to a sale, especially if they've never heard of you before. It's really important to remember there's 7 touch points. Very proven 7 touch points in marketing to be able to make a sale or be able to convince them to do something with whatever you're looking for them to do with your brand. And having people thinking, oh, I'm going to put a Facebook ad up and I'm going to get 15,000 sales from that.
Doesn't work.
It's like, no, it never works. And that's when you have people going, oh, it's not working. Why am I not getting sales? And you have to mix it up. You have to look at your target market. You have to look at that segment that you're looking at, and how do you then position to them? What is your positioning? What's in it for me piece, or with them as we call it? And how do they get value from what you're giving them? And it could be across that whole 7 touch points, you provide them with a little giveaway at each one, or it's just about highlighting your different brand values that align with what you believe is their values. I think that's really important for people to remember. And all of that, there's 5 massive points, which is a lot of work. Then you can look at starting to develop a marketing strategy. Only then, once you know all this background information, can you then develop a strategy to be able to go into the implementation piece, into the product development piece, into how do I get my voice out there? How do I distribute it? How do I do all that sort of stuff? How do I do my integrated marketing communications plan? You know, how do I do that? That's after all this groundwork is done. And then on top of everything, it's the brand. So what is the brand?
Let's not forget the brand.
I know, I love brand.
Tell us a little bit
what
about
is the
that?
brand?
Because I think there's a misconception throughout all of business ownership that your brand is your logo and what you put on your website. What you put on your website and how it looks and feels, definitely. But just for those at home, what actually encompasses brand?
Yeah, so I've actually done a recent blog on this, so you can check it out on my website. But basically, people get confused between what a brand is and what branding is. And they're 2 very different elements. So a brand is the emotional connection someone has with your brand, let's say. It's something that can't be measured. It's that perspective component. It is what is emoted when they see your different components of your branding exercises. And everyone has different emotions. I would have a different emotion to a company that my dad would have a different emotion to, that same company. And it has to do with the different touch points that people have with you. It has to do with the things that they hear about in media. It has to do with all those sorts of aspects. And then you have the branding exercises, which people often think is the brand. Branding is, you know, the visuals, it's the vision, it's the values that are pushed out there. It's all of those components. It's the logo, it's the media releases, it's the website, it's the social media. It's all those things where they start to actually have those touch points with you for you to build up that emotion and build up that perspective. But yeah, people just get confused between the 2, and that's fine. It's fine. But as long as you remember that a brand is an emotion, and you can't easily measure an emotion.
I love
or
that.
can't easily have an action towards it.
You are full of quotes today. So brand is an emotion, and I think you mentioned all the touch points, and that, you know, getting into the customer's mind takes time. But what's really important about branding, and I think people overlook this, is that everything you do should be telling the same story, down to what your logo looks like, what you're saying, what does your social say, you know, what are you wearing, does it match your brand? This is intentional, this dress choice today. It should all be singing essentially from the same hymn book, and eventually over time your customers associate your brand with what your company does, and it's almost a subconscious thought of, oh, I need some marketing work done, hey, Marketing Unlocked, they're the company for me. Or I need to buy that product, hey, I have seen this great product on Facebook, in the media, I'll go to them. So it's almost like that organic type of sale that comes. It's the kind of sales we like, the ones that come through the door.
Exactly. And you know, sometimes people don't want their brand to be a positive brand, especially those people who are disruptive, those brands that are disruptive. They want people to have really strong emotions, whether it be like, yes, I completely agree, and they push it out the crazy, or they get very aggressive about it, and those sorts of things. It depends on what you want. You can understand and have that brand identity of what is your brand? How do you want people to feel when they interact with you? And that's sort of the piece that you can measure. You can measure your brand identity, and you can understand and figure out what emotion you want connected with your brand. And then you can measure it. Are people actually feeling this way when they are interacting with me, when they're interacting with my call centers, when they're interacting with my products, when they're interacting or see my logo? Do they feel happy? And that's when it comes down to the colors. Like you said, you've got the yellow or the lemon and the black, and then all of a sudden you're matching with your top. how do you want people to feel when they see that? And that's why people don't realize that all the elements of the branding exercises that you do, the color of your logo, the layout of the logo, it actually does resonate with an emotion. You like smells, you resonate that to a memory. With colors, you resonate that to an emotion. And it is pretty crucial, and it's amazing the science behind it. And picking the right color really does influence how people, especially if that's the first touch point they have with you, how people actually visually or emotionally understand your brand from a logo, from the color of a logo.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And there is, as you say, psychology and science that actually do sit behind it. And so branding is very, very important. And I think brand must be the flavor of the month, because Level Up have also got a little tip video coming out in the next few weeks about branding and about how to develop a brand strategy. Not in detail, but just a nice quick video. And something that you mentioned, which reminded me of it, was the brand archetype. And a lot of people go, oh, what do you mean a brand archetype? But there are 12, and they actually come from psychology. I think it may be Carl Jung or someone like that actually identified that there are these types of archetypes in the world, but it works for branding as well. And as you say, some brands like to be disruptive, and they fit into that rebel archetype, and that's who they are. That's what they stand for. And people almost look for them for something controversial or something innovative or something different. And that's what they stand by. And everything they do is rebellious and disruptive and innovative, and that's their archetype. If they suddenly turn to be, the sage and be wise and let us give you this history and this education, well, that doesn't work with the rebel brand. So as part of your branding strategy, if you haven't done one already, everyone do one. Very important. It informs your marketing strategy, it informs your business strategy. It's a very important document. But yes, have a look at the brand archetypes, look them up. They're all over Google, and be true to that. I think a lot of entrepreneurs identify with the creator. And so are you always being the creator for your company and for your customers as well? So we could talk all day about branding and marketing, but this has been an incredibly I've learned so much in the short amount of time we've spent together, so I really appreciate that. But in terms of today's podcast, this has definitely been a personal story of transformation. And I think the nuggets of gold, which we probably weren't expecting when we first started chatting, was you've given us some great advice as to how we can transform our own businesses, particularly with marketing. There are so many lessons from today's podcast, but before you do a Facebook ad, people have heard me say this before, step away from the mouse. Put your wallet away. You need to do some work first. The groundwork, as Tegan mentioned. And Tegan, just for people who are watching this who may not have done a brand strategy, a market plan before, how much time are we talking? Is this a big, expensive document that takes a really long time and you need a consultant to do it, or can you do it yourself?
I think there's two components. It really depends on what you're looking to get out of it. I do believe that you can do it yourself. I'm sort of someone who is all about, helping everyone out. But if you're completely in the deep end, if you've never done marketing before, if you've never, run a big business, if you're looking to take on 3-4 employees, those sorts of things, I do always recommend to just spend money. It's really, really confronting when you are at a stage in your business where you have to pivot and you have to spend money. And is that going to be spending money on yourself to do the training to figure out how to do it? Or is that going to be spending the money for someone else to do it for you and for you to kind of get snippets and understand it? And that's sort of the difference in that approach. So one route is sort of going down training and coaching. And then the other route is going down, hiring someone to do your strategy for you. And it depends. I think that the coaching one goes for a lot longer. It's a bit longer of a process, and I do coaching opportunities as well, but you're looking at having a solid 2 months where you don't really get much work done. You're not really doing much, but you're laying a lot of foundations. You're building your mindset to change how you approach your business and how you look at your business. Whereas the strategic, getting someone to do your strategy for you, that's a little bit more of a short-term piece that can have long-term benefits. So I do offer sort of strategies, and sometimes, you know, my strategies are turn around in 1 to 2 weeks. And they're usually very specific. Do you want a strategy for a certain channel? Do you want a strategy for your sales funnel? You know, those sorts of things. And I kind of always look a little bit bigger, and I'm very much a don't spend money unless you've got everything ready to go on your sales funnel. You see all the time where people are like, oh, I need to get sales. I'm going to just chuck a Facebook ad up. And it's like, okay, but your website, you can't, it's not mobile optimized. You just can't function on it, and you're not going to actually get someone to buy anything. So often I look at that bigger piece as well. And that's something that I always do. And that's strategic mindset, like you. But I think that it really depends on what you're looking to get out of it. Look, it depends on your mindset and how you work as a business owner as well. But yeah, it's definitely 2 approaches there, and I'd recommend either one. It really depends on you as an individual, and I wouldn't say, hey, I'm really quick at doing strategies and I can pump out heaps and come to me because that's great for my business. I'm going to look and go, no, actually, you need to think about what's good for your business and what's going to save you money. And that's my primary goal, is saving that company money to make more money.
Exactly right. And I was going to touch on that as well as a sort of a closing statement for today, but that is, this is an investment, actually. Yes, it will cost you money. Either way you go, or you could do it yourself, but the investment is your time. It is an investment that almost always, not always, but almost always will give you positive ROI for your business. It will make you more efficient. It will make you identify who your target customers are so that you can speak their language, so that you can make more sales. So investing the time in planning and understanding your why, I think that's a big message from today as well, is something that's going to pay dividends for you and your business for, as you say, many months, years to come. So it's something that you should spend the time doing. Carve out some time, get it done, and you know you'll reap the benefits of it in the long term, and you'll transform, which is the theme of the LVLing Up podcast. So on that note, thank you very much, Tegan, for joining us for today's episode. I, as I said, have learned an absolute ton, and you've got a blog and a website, and we'll put all of those details under this video, so that if you'd like to read more about Marketing Unlocked and some of the great work that Tegan is doing, with a disclaimer that the wonderful Tegan is about to give birth to her second child. So if you see there's the airwaves go a little quiet, you know that she's got her hands full, literally, with the 2-year-old and the newborn. But what does next year, or this year I should say, look like for you, Tegan? Are you going to be back up and running and taking Marketing Unlocked to new heights in 2021?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's only been very new. It's been 2.5 months, which is quite a new little business, and I've really enjoyed what I've been doing. I've just re-sparked that passion that sometimes you lose when you're in a corporate world and you're in that same job. I've been in that same position or same company for 4 years, and I just sort of lost a bit of that spark. And because I found it back, I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to take too much time off. Yes, it's going to be a transition as I start to get back into it, but I would really love, 6-8 weeks of leave with the young ones, and then once the weather starts to turn, that might be when I start to shift back into it. And I'm always looking for new opportunities, always looking to spark my passion and get involved with more businesses, more different types of companies as well. And it's something where I don't think it's going to be much of a breather for me. Definitely going to reevaluate how everything's going and look at my business plan, as we discussed at the very start. Re-looking at my business plan while I'm on this break period and understanding, where do I actually want it to go? How much do I want to actually grow my business? How much do I want to push further and go down that track? And that will be my breather in order to do that reevaluation stage, and looking at my reviews and looking at my clients and seeing what else I can do to help businesses out there. And that's what I really want to keep doing, is it's a passion of helping businesses, small, big, whatever.
I love this. Well, it sounds like a level up Marketing Unlocked collaboration is imminent sometime in 2021. So everybody watch this space. There could be some very exciting things on the horizon for us. But as I said, thank you so much for joining us for today's LVLing Up vodcast. If you're watching at home and would like our episodes delivered directly to your inbox, of course, you can subscribe on the Level Up website, which is levelupconsulting.com.au. And if you or you know somebody who has had a story of transformation in business, they've done something strategic, out of the box, something really interesting that you'd love to tell your story, of course, send us an email. We'd love to talk to them, and we'll see you next time at the LVLing Up podcast. Thanks, Tegan.